Every single liter of bottled water you drink contains roughly 240,000 invisible plastic fragments. They have already been found inside human brain tissue, inside human hearts, inside the placentas of unborn children, and inside the very first stool of newborn babies. You are not just drinking water, you are drinking the bottle. 2,000 years ago, the Romans drank from lead pipes, and the science now says their water was cleaner than yours. That plastic bottle in your fridge is not a sealed container. It is a slow-dissolving delivery system for microscopic poison, and you pay a premium for it. If you drink bottled water, you swallow up to 90,000 more microplastic particles every year than someone drinking from the tap. That number comes from a review of 141 studies. It should have made front-page news in every country on Earth. It didn't. Some brands tested at over 2,200 particles per liter, but the microplastics are not even the worst part. The nanoplastics are. Nanoplastics are smaller than 1 micrometer. Comparing them to a grain of sand is like comparing a marble to a mountain. And because they are that small, they do something that larger particles cannot. They pass directly through the walls of human cells. They cross the lining of your stomach and enter your bloodstream. They cross the blood-brain barrier, the fortress that is supposed to protect your brain from exactly this kind of invasion. They even cross the placental barrier, reaching an unborn child before it has taken its first breath. 7% of nanoplastics that enter the body translocate into your organs. That is not a theoretical number, that is a measured rate. And they are already there. Brain tissue, testicles, heart, stomach, lymph nodes, placenta. They have been detected in urine, in breast milk, in semen, and in the meconium of newborns. One research team examined tonsils removed from healthy children and found plastic fragments, not just on the surface, but embedded deep within the tissue. In one child, they found visible specks of Teflon under the microscope. A pediatric doctor involved in the research put it bluntly, "We are born pre-polluted." In March 2024, one of the most respected medical journals on the planet published a study that should have ended this debate permanently. Researchers studied patients undergoing surgery to remove plaque from their arteries. They tested the plaque for plastic, and they found it. Patients who had microplastics embedded in their arterial walls had a significantly higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and death compared to patients who did not. This was not a correlation. This was not a mouse experiment. This was plastic found inside the walls of human arteries, directly linked to the events that kill more people than any other cause on Earth: cardiovascular disease. And the damage does not stop at the heart. Once nanoplastics enter the bloodstream, they do not simply pass through. They accumulate. They lodge in tissues. They trigger a chronic inflammatory response as your immune system tries and fails to break down a material that was engineered to resist degradation. That inflammation does not resolve because the particles do not leave. They sit there, month after month, provoking a low-grade immune response that slowly damages the surrounding tissue. It is like having a splinter your body can never remove, except the splinter is in your lungs, your liver, your brain, and your bloodstream all at the same time. The scientific literature now connects nano and microplastic exposure to respiratory diseases, reproductive harm, neurotoxicity, DNA damage, endocrine disruption, metabolic disorders including obesity and diabetes, immune system dysfunction, and colorectal cancer. These are not fringe claims. The number of published papers on this topic exploded from 7 per year in 2016 to nearly 400 by 2023. The scientific community is not debating whether this is a problem. They are racing to understand how bad it already is. Here is the part that should make you furious. The bottle itself is the source, and it cannot be fixed. Your plastic water bottle is made from polyethylene terephthalate, PET. It starts shedding particles the moment it is manufactured. Every stage of its life makes it worse. The heat inside a shipping container accelerates degradation. Sunlight through a warehouse window accelerates it. The temperature inside your car on a summer afternoon accelerates it, and your own hands accelerate it. Every time you open and close that cap, the friction between the cap and the bottleneck sheds plastic particles directly into your water. Every time you squeeze the bottle to take a sip, the flexing of the walls releases more. Studies that simulated normal use, opening and closing, squeezing and refilling, found measurably higher particle counts after mechanical stress. The more you handle a plastic bottle, the more plastic you drink. And these particles do not travel alone. They carry chemical hitchhikers, phthalates, bisphenol A, heavy metals, PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals. These substances are used in the manufacturing process or absorbed from the environment during storage, and they leach into the water alongside the particles. Many of them are endocrine disruptors, meaning they interfere with the hormones that regulate everything from fertility to brain development to metabolism. A plastic water bottle is not a container. It is a slow-dissolving chemical cocktail that you sip from every day and refill every night. As of right now, there is no standardized testing method approved by the EPA or the World Health Organization for measuring nanoplastics in drinking water. Unlike bacteria, unlike lead, unlike virtually every other contaminant we care about, there is no agreed-upon protocol for detecting the thing that is dissolving into your water right now. The WHO itself has acknowledged the problem, but concluded that current evidence is insufficient to take action. Translation: they are waiting for more data while you keep drinking. No regulation is coming, no recall is coming, no warning label is coming. The only person who is going to stop you from drinking plastic is you. So, how did a civilization with no chemistry labs, no plastics, and no industrial manufacturing manage to deliver clean water to over 1 million people for 500 years straight? With nothing but gravity, stone, and an obsessive attention to water quality that would shame most modern cities. The Romans did not just grab water from the nearest river and hope for the best. They were scientists of water long before the word scientist existed. Vitruvius, the great Roman architect, classified different water sources by taste, clarity, temperature, and health effects. He warned that stagnant water was dangerous. Pliny the Elder documented the medicinal and harmful properties of dozens of water types. These were not casual observations. They were systematic attempts to understand which water was safe and which could kill you. The Romans classified water the way a modern laboratory classifies chemical samples, and they built their entire infrastructure around those classifications. They started at the source. The best Roman aqueducts drew from mountain springs, where water emerged naturally filtered through rock and earth. Moving water was prized above all. Roman physicians knew that running water was healthier than still water. The principle was embedded in their culture at every level. Good water moves, bad water sits. Not all water was treated equally. The Romans graded their sources. Some aqueducts carried water so pure and cold it was reserved exclusively for drinking. The Aqua Marcia was famous for its pleasant taste and clarity. Others, like the Aqua Alciatina, delivered water deemed unfit for human consumption, so the Romans routed it to gardens, cleaning, and even to fill artificial lakes for staged naval battles in the arena. They did not mix their best water with their worst. They separated it. They labeled it. They managed it like a resource that mattered. From the source, water entered the aqueduct system. These were not open ditches. Most Roman aqueducts were enclosed channels carved through hillsides or tunneled through mountains, running 1 to 3 feet below the surface. The channels were lined with waterproof cement and followed the natural contours of the landscape, sloping gently downward so that gravity alone moved the water. No pumps, no electricity, no fuel. Just a gradient so precisely calculated with nothing more than a leveling rod called a chorobates and an alignment tool called a groma that modern engineers still study the technique. When the terrain required it, the Romans built arched bridges to carry the channels across valleys, structures so well engineered that some are still standing 2,000 years later. When a valley was too wide for a bridge, they used inverted siphons, sending water down one side in pressurized pipes and back up the other, using nothing but physics. 11 separate aqueducts eventually served the city of Rome alone, stretching across dozens of kilometers of terrain. But the engineering was only half the system. The treatment was equally sophisticated. Before water entered the city, it passed through massive settling tanks called piscinae limariae. These were multi-chambered pools with sloped floors where sediment sank to the bottom and was manually removed. This is mechanical filtration at municipal scale, removing dirt, debris, and particulate matter before the water reached a single citizen. Along the length of the aqueducts, vertical access shafts called lumina served a dual purpose. They allowed inspection crews to enter the channels for maintenance, and they ventilated the water. The Romans understood that exposing water to air improved its quality. This was aeration. Modern water treatment plants still use it. Once water reached the city, it entered the Castellum Aquae, the distribution hub. From there, it was divided and routed through a network of pipes to public fountains, bathhouses, and private connections. The system was managed by a dedicated bureaucracy under Sextus Julius Frontinus, the water commissioner appointed by Emperor Nerva. He documented the capacity of every aqueduct, the distribution of every pipe, and the legal regulations governing water use. He cracked down on corruption, prosecuted illegal tapping, and ensured the system served the public first. 45% of Rome's water supply went to the public at no charge. Hundreds of fountains lined the streets. By the 4th century, the city had over 850 neighborhood bathhouses and at least 10 massive imperial bathing complexes, all of it powered by gravity. All of it maintained by a professional workforce. A city of over 1 million people, fully hydrated, without a single watt of electricity or a single drop of chlorine. Now, the lead pipes. This is the part where everything you were taught gets turned inside out. For decades, the popular narrative has been that Roman lead pipes poisoned the population. That lead leaching into drinking water caused cognitive decline, infertility, and madness among the Roman elite, and that this slow poisoning contributed to the fall of the empire itself. It is a compelling story. It is taught in schools. It has been repeated in countless documentaries. And it is wrong. Calcium carbonate, the same mineral that causes limescale buildup in your kettle, accumulated naturally on the inner walls of Roman lead pipes over time. This mineral layer formed a physical barrier between the lead and the water, preventing the metal from leaching into the supply. The harder the water, the faster the coating formed, and the safer the pipe became. The pipes sealed themselves. Did Romans consume some lead? Yes. It was present in certain cosmetics, in some cooking vessels, and in a sweetener they made by boiling grape must in lead pots. But the pipes? The pipes were self-protecting. Multiple archaeological studies have confirmed this. The lead poisoning theory, as it relates to Roman plumbing, has been repeatedly refuted by modern science. Here is the irony that should keep you up at night. Roman lead pipes developed a natural protective coating that got stronger and more effective over time. Your plastic water bottle has no protective coating. It has no self-sealing mechanism. It actively degrades from the moment it is produced. Every hour that passes, every degree of temperature it absorbs, every squeeze and flex and cap twist makes it worse. The Roman pipe got safer with age. Your plastic bottle gets more dangerous. And the Romans knew about the risk. Vitruvius himself warned about the potential dangers of lead in water systems over 2,000 years ago. They investigated, they evaluated, they made an engineering decision based on practical evidence. Meanwhile, we have known about microplastics in bottled water for over 2 decades, and the global regulatory response has been to publish reports saying more research is needed. So why did we abandon a system that worked for centuries and replace it with dissolving plastic? The answer has nothing to do with safety and everything to do with money. The Romans treated water as public infrastructure. It was a civic responsibility managed by the state, funded by the treasury, and delivered to citizens as a basic right. Frontinus did not manage a business. He managed a public service. The aqueducts were monuments to collective investment, maintained for generations, serving everyone from senators to slaves. Water flowed through the streets of Rome as a visible demonstration that the state served its people. We turned water into a consumer product. A liter of bottled water costs more than a liter of gasoline in most countries, and the raw material is essentially free. The markup is not the water. The markup is the plastic, the label, the marketing, and the logistics of shipping what is essentially tap water in a container that poisons the product it holds. Bottled water is one of the most profitable consumer goods ever invented, precisely because the product costs almost nothing to produce and the customer has been convinced they cannot live without it. The plastic bottle is not a delivery system for clean water. It is a delivery system for profit, and the industry knows exactly what is happening. The evidence is growing exponentially, and yet nothing changes. Because the moment you regulate plastic water bottles out of existence, you destroy a global industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The incentive structure is identical to every other case where corporate profit collides with public health. Delay, dispute, demand, more research, and keep selling. The reason we forgot about gravity-fed stone aqueducts and ceramic-lined settling tanks is not because something better came along. It is because you cannot sell a subscription to a Roman water system. There is no recurring revenue in a pipe that seals itself. There is no profit margin in a public fountain. There is no shareholder value in water that flows freely from a mountain spring to a city street without a single branded label touching it. So we replaced a system that worked for 500 years with a product that dissolves in your hands and charges you for the privilege. The most advanced civilization of the ancient world built public water infrastructure that outlasted their entire empire. We built a private water product that cannot even outlast a summer afternoon in the backseat of your car without becoming measurably more contaminated than when you bought it. Stop buying single-use plastic water bottles. Not next month. Not when you finish the case in your garage. Now, switch to glass or stainless steel. Filter your tap water if you are concerned about quality, because even unfiltered, your tap water contains measurably fewer plastic particles than any bottled alternative. If you have children, this matters more than you think. Their organs are still developing. Their bodies are smaller. The concentration of particles per kilogram of body weight is higher, and they have decades more exposure ahead of them. The Romans built a water system that served over 1 million people using nothing but gravity, stone, and human engineering. It ran for 5 centuries. Some of their aqueducts are still standing. Your plastic water bottle will sit in a landfill for 1,000 years, and the microscopic fragments it already shed are circulating through your bloodstream right now. 2,000 years ago, they solved this problem with physics and public will. We created a new one with plastic and profit. The Romans chose stone, they chose gravity, they chose infrastructure that served everyone. You are still choosing plastic, and your body is keeping the receipt.